What's good? Thank you for tapping in. This is TMC with Tai Chi, where we have transformative mindset conversations that lead us towards progress on our prolific personal development journey as individual people and as parents of teens and tweens. Because, child, it's rough out here, okay? I am your host, Tai Chi. I represent East Oakland, where the youngsters get hypey. And today's transformative mindset conversation is centered around prolific preparation as it pertains to preparing for the school year. Whether your child is transitioning from elementary school into middle school into high school, they're transferring in between one of those, like school to school, there will be tons of insightful tips, tools, techniques mentioned. So grab a drink stink and a notebook too, because you don't want to miss the gems that I'm about to drop on you. Okay, so this is just a disclaimer. You may notice, because I am prolific, not polished, okay? So you may notice me looking down. I'll be looking at my cue cards because I have prepared myself with some notes, okay? And when I get into my flow state, I might cuss a little bit, but I promise you that everything I have to say is oh so legit. So hopefully you can get with it. Okay, so preparedness for the school year is more than just having the binder with the backpack and, the highlighters and the pens and the pencils. It's more than the outfit and the shoes. It's more than having the snacks and the lunch ready. It's really having those conversations that trigger critical thinking in your child. Asking those questions to help them think ahead, right? Everybody has this grand idea of what they want their first day to be like, but we also have to be realistic and ask questions like, what are you most excited about? What makes you nervous? How do you handle forgetting something at home? We're going to get into different questions you can ask in a moment, but really having those conversations that allow your child to think emotionally, spiritually, socially, academically, like really asking those questions to deep dive into their mind and see. Some kids are very excited about going back to school and others are dreading it. Is it a social thing? Is it the lack of confidence in your attire? Is it you needing or wanting a certain hairstyle? Like, you really have to peel back the layers and see where your child is at mentally and then meet them where they are so that they can build the confidence that's necessary for them to go into a new school setting. Because it's already hard enough being a teenager, there's all this comparison, and then there's social media. You get made fun of if you don't have social media. So being in the school setting around other people can be something that other teenagers may find difficult, and it's up to us to really ask those questions to see, like, what are they thinking and how can I help them prepare and be as comfortable as possible so that they can focus on learning. Okay, confidence is cultivated through preparation. So things like a morning routine. But before we even get to the morning routine, we have to go to sleep, right? So what time are we setting screen time? I know kids hate to hear the phrase screen time, but they don't have the mental capabilities of setting discipline for themselves. So as parents, it is our responsibility it's like when you go bowling and you put those lanes up, I forget what they're called, the bumpers, I think. No, is that bumpers are on the cars. You know what I'm talking about, the bowling lanes, right? And so you have to help them stay in the right space. They don't know how to say no, right? They live in a society and a culture where everything is instantly available to them. If you want to talk to someone, you can text them, you can TikTok message them, you can Instagram DM them. So understanding that not everyone should have access to you, and also to mentally prepare yourself for having a good night's rest, you should be off of your screen 1 hour before you go to bed so that your mind can literally start to wind down from looking at the screen, from having that bright light, from just interacting with people, right? That last hour can be spent as family time. We can sit around and have a conversation about the wins of our day, what we're excited about tomorrow, what do you think you're gonna wear, right? Or reading. I wouldn't say listening to music, because again, you want to separate yourself from the ability to be involved with electronics, but there are so many things that can be done. It could be stretching, it could be yoga, it could be Pilates, it could be 50 sit-ups for the ones that, like want a six-pack and all that kind of stuff. So your nighttime routine is going to be so important because that is what's going to set the tone for the very next day. Also, going to bed at a certain time and sticking to that time so that your body is, again, prepared and understanding the changes that are happening, right? You can't go from staying up at 2 a.m. every day to all of a sudden being able to get up at 7. So implementing that bedtime is going to be so important, as well as the screen time. Then you have your morning routine, right? What does that look like? Hopefully it's not getting on your phone as soon as you wake up. Parents, I'm talking to you as well as talking about your teen. We should not be jumping towards our phones first thing in the morning. Now, I understand if you want to play like some meditative music, but even before that, whatever your belief is, whatever your ritual may be, give gratitude for being able to see the day, because somewhere someone didn't. So I'm never going to tell anybody what they should believe in, but you have to understand that you were created by something bigger than yourself. So you should give gratitude to that entity, being, whatever energy source you feel that is, right? So your morning routine should be easy flowing. Now, we understand that sometimes it's not always going to be that way, but if we can prepare ahead of time, if that's meal prepping to make sure that maybe you whisk up the eggs and you put them in a mason jar and they're already ready to just be scrambled. Maybe it's pre-making the pancakes and then putting them in, a Tupperware container, foiled or something like that. So in the morning, all you have to do is put them in the oven or put them in the toaster. I like to go to the bagel shop and get a dozen bagels, have them sliced. I ask for a freezer bag. I will freeze half of that dozen. It's just 2 of us. So I will freeze half of that dozen and then I will put the other half in the refrigerator. So in the morning, we can just quickly make bagels. We could also do like cereal. So thinking about the easiest way possible. Also making sure that your child's backpack is packed the night before. If there's nothing more that gets on a parent's nerves, is having a permission slip handed to them at 7 in the morning when we are supposed to be walking out at 7:20, right? So making sure that, and this goes into the nighttime routine, making sure that homework has been put in the backpack, your folders are where they're supposed to be, the backpack is set. Everything should be prepared in the backpack and it should be in one place. You find, if you want to leave it by the door of the bedroom, the front door, in the living room next to the couch, there should be a certain time set to where the backpack is completely done. You're done with your homework. It's packed and prepared. All you have to do is grab lunch in the morning, or make sure you got lunch money on your Venmo, or whatever like that. But it's just really important to set some sort of routine, because the preparedness is what's going to allow you to ease into that stuff, right? A musician rehearses, an athlete goes to practice, a facilitator reads over their material and they create a guide. So it's so many different things that different people do to prepare themselves. Tweens and teens and students deserve that ability to be prepared as well, but it takes the adult in their life to implement what it looks like to be prepared, because with that preparedness comes a certain level of confidence that they have walking through those doors, whether it's the first day, the first week, the first marking period, and hopefully that energy carries on throughout the school year because they know what it looks like to create a routine for themselves. It also helps to reduce anxiety, right? Like when you have less things to worry about, that's so beautiful. So when you have a routine, you don't have as much anxiety, you have less things to fear, and you don't have to spend energy wondering what's coming next. You can just focus on the learning aspect of it all. All right, what does... So again, this is just more details. I talked about the screen time. I talked about, laying out the outfit the night before or getting up the morning of. Okay, this is for my girlies, because I am the type of person, when you see me, 9 times out of 10, I got that shit on, okay? But that comes from knowing myself well enough. Some people can lay their outfit out the night before. They jump up, they take their shower, they get dressed, everything's good. I, on the other hand, need to step into my own energy and figure out, how am I feeling today? And after I figure out how I'm feeling today, then I have to stand in my closet and observe everything. I have my dresses over here. I have my blouses and my dress shirts up here. I have my skirts and my jeans down here. And then I have my coats. Thankfully, we're not in a season where we need coats and jackets, but if you're going into an air-conditioned place, you may. If you are not the type of person that can lay something out and still be committed to it in the morning, you need to understand that that is going to require you to wake up earlier so that you can adequately take the time that you need to tap in with your own essence, so that you can really put that shit on. Because when you have to wear something and you're not really comfortable in it, you're not really feeling it, it's not the vibe you were going for, that's the first domino of the rest of your day. Everything else is going to affect your energy because you're not comfortable in your own skin. And this doesn't mean that you don't love yourself or that you're not, exuding self-love. It just means I wore this dress when I really wanted to wear those cargo pants, and there's nothing wrong with that. So again, just making sure you understand who you are as a person so you can set those alarms on time. I get up at 3:45 and I go through, there's several things I like to do. I like to read, I like to journal, I like to stretch a little bit, and then I need time to stand and look at my closet. But like I said, I be putting that shit on. This is the 25th anniversary. I'll show you guys the back later. Anyways, bedtime and screen time, laying out your outfits or getting up early, your morning routine, meal planning or meal prepping. This is going to be important too, because once you get home, are you rushing to try to do dinner? First of all, let's back up. When you get home, I like to implement something called a do nothing session. This is the first 15 minutes when we get home. We take off our shoes, we leave them at the door. We go in our respective quarters. She has her room, I have mine, and you do nothing for 15 minutes. If that do nothing to you looks like scrolling on TikTok, okay, cool. If that do nothing sounds like playing a song and singing at the top of your lungs, if it looks like coloring, if it looks like literally just taking a cat nap for a moment, you do nothing, because you are deserving of that. You've done whatever you've done. You've handled whatever you handled. You've been around all the different energies that you've been around earlier in the day. You deserve to have a moment to do nothing. This is how you pour back into yourself so that you could get your second win for this next shift. Now we get into dinner. Are you meal prepping on the weekend so that you guys are just heating up things when you come home? Are you seasoning and preparing things in the morning time so that when you get home, all you have to do is cook it? Are you getting family style servings from restaurants and divvying that up so that that's your meal prep? There's so many ways to eliminate having to cook every single day if that's something that you don't necessarily enjoy. Maybe your schedule doesn't allow it. Children who have extracurricular activities and sports, you're at practice and then you get home and before you know it, it's time to go to bed again. So thinking about ways that you can prepare yourself to not have to not have to exude so much time on one thing when you could be focusing on several other things, right? Because another thing that we want to implement into our evening routine, after we have our do nothing session, after we have our dinner, we still have to think about homework. We still have to think about chores. Although you are a student, and some parents don't require chores, to each their own. That's your household. You do what you want to do. If you are someone who still is going to require your child to complete their chores, you have to think about, what does that look like? Implementing a routine for that just as much as you're implementing a routine for everything else is important. It's the same way that it is when you go to your job. You understand what your job description is. You understand that on Tuesdays, maybe you have a meeting for 2 hours and everything else you do throughout the week is project-based. So it's really about mentally preparing them so that there are no surprises. There's no attitude about me asking you to take the trash out, because you know that this is a part of your routine, right? Okay. It's also about responsibility, because as we prepare them for what it looks like to cross the bridge from adolescence into adulthood, you're going to have to learn how to juggle multiple things. I can go to work all day as an adult and come home, and it's still my responsibility to make sure that certain things are taken care of. So how do I start to learn? How do I start to teach you how to balance those responsibilities now? Now, I'm not going to give you every single responsibility, but you still at some point will need to learn and understand what it looks like to balance that. So being able to say this is what it is, but also still give them the freedom to choose, is one thing that helps to create less tension. You still have to, if you have a dog, maybe it's walking the dog. If you have a cat, maybe it's emptying the kitty litter. You still have to tend to the pet. You still have to do the chores. You still have to do the homework, but I'll give you the freedom to decide in what order you would like to do those things. And then it'll be up to you, and I can help you with this in terms of implementing time blocks on how you do those things. If you want to start with your chores, personally, I find it a little meditative to wash dishes. The water is warm. It's almost like a spa. So if you want to start with the dishes just to kind of break up the monotony of having just gotten out of school, then you can do the chores first and then get into the homework, or do the chores, have dinner, then get into the homework. That all is up to the parentals and the caregivers in the home, but also understanding that it's so important to still keep these things implemented in a specific routine. Okay, laundry and ironing are things that should definitely be handled on the weekends, because you don't want to waste time doing those things in the evening. And I understand, again, I'm not the type of person that can lay out an outfit and still be committed to it in the morning. But what I will do is I will iron everything and hang it up. So that way, whether I'm feeling this cloth dress or these blue jeans, everything is already prepared for me to just grab it and go. Again, prepping and setting the backpack the night before is going to save you a lot of time. You should be having family meetings once a week, okay? This is a time for you all to just kind of talk about what goals you may have had, what things have happened, what you're not necessarily having the best approach with. If your child is open to sharing with you the things that they're experiencing at school, whether they're good or they're bad, you want to be able to implement a time, and again, making it a routine so they look forward to it. I know I can talk about this on Wednesday when we have our family meeting, or this is a suggestion I have because I heard my friend said they do it in their family, or maybe you as a parent have picked up on other techniques from other parents and it's something you want to implement. Introducing it first at a family meeting versus just this is what it is, effective immediately, you'll get a lot more, what do they say? You get more bees with honey. Of course you would, because bees make the honey, but you get what I'm saying. If you are able to introduce it and ask for feedback and ask for suggestions and see how you all would like to tweak it in a way that works specifically for your family. Maybe it's something you saw on TikTok. You want to implement it, but you want to see how you all can make it work for you. Introduce it, ask for the input, ask what they think, give them the sense that it's kind of their idea, and you may have a better time with it. Okay, so $100 worth of clothes versus priceless planning. All right, we talked about buying the materials and the school uniforms or clothes and the shoes and things like that, but the critical conversations that allow you to kind of guide them in a way to think deeper, that's the priceless stuff that is going to be so much more important than any Shein haul, any Ross haul, any wherever you shop type of haul. Your closet, right? Because if you're like me and you have a teenage daughter, all of your clothes become her clothes, but we love them no less. So how you asking them questions like, how do you handle your first, are you stressed about the first day? Are you nervous? Do you have the jitters? How will you handle disappointment and conflict? And we don't want to project. We don't want to make it seem like the first day is not going to go well. But kids have this very elaborate idea of how they want their first day to be, right? God forbid somebody steps on their new shoes. God forbid, whoever forbid that, you know, the one super cool pencil that you wanted to use, you forgot it on your nightstand, or you forgot your Stanley, or something happens and you feel like the day is ruined. How will you mentally prepare yourself to turn things around, to keep your energy up, to think about it as this can still be a great day? So you as a parent or caregiver, knowing your child, it will be up to you to ask these questions, and then as you understand them, telling them or kind of guiding them to think about ways and things that they can implement to keep their mindset in the positive versus thinking that everything is completely ruined, because it's not. It's not. One bad thing does not make it a bad day. Ashe? All right. Meeting with the teachers and speaking up. Hopefully there's an opportunity for like registration, and they would have been able to meet their teachers beforehand. But if not, you know, the first day is the first time that they may be meeting those teachers. So how do you go about just the introduction, or, you know, being observant maybe, and just understanding that it's okay to sit back and learn the style of the teacher? Also, simple things like if your name is mispronounced, how do you have the courage to respectfully correct the adult? Because for children and for teens, it can be a scary feeling to tell an adult that they are wrong, because a lot of times adults are not very receptive to being corrected. And that's not the fault of the child. The child's name is just as important as respecting the adult is. But if it's the first day, you want to make sure that that type of thing is nipped in the bud immediately, because how that teacher begins to treat them is going to make or break their confidence in that class. And it's also going to set the tone for their social aspect, right? If a student is called Taylor instead of Tyler, and the kids know because they're friends, like, hey, that's not your name, aren't you going to say something to her? And then that kid doesn't have the courage to say anything. Those other kids are kind of, now you're looking at a lack of respect from others because you let the respect slide from someone else, if that makes sense. So just really implementing in them that it's okay to correct someone when they got you fucked up. Now I'm just playing. It's okay for them to be corrected as long as you do it respectfully. Okay. Making friends. Sometimes this is a big one. So making friends is sometimes socially awkward for people, but also we have those other ones who are like super social butterflies, right? And then there's some that are like in the middle. In the middle is a great place to be, and implementing this and telling your child how to remain in the middle is going to be so important, because just because you were friends with them last year does not mean you have to continue to be friends with them. Maybe you all are growing in different directions. Maybe you all are taking different interests. Maybe they're getting into some things that will put them in trouble, and you don't necessarily need to be around them because you would be guilty by association. So really being able to think about what type of friend you want to be and what type of friend you want to be friends with is going to be so important. And again, parents, knowing your child and really having those critical thinking conversations of like, okay, well, if your friend starts talking crazy to the teacher, or if you hang out with this person and they're disrespecting other people, they're being a bully, or if they go somewhere and they start shoplifting, like, how do you handle these things? And then also leaving the door open to you not being judgmental of the choices that they make, because sometimes they have to go through things themselves. So while you can see for yourself that's not your friend, that's not the type of person you need to be around, they're not going to get it until they truly experience it themselves. But one thing I will say to encourage them to make good choices is that you want to tell them that it's okay to just be observant. You don't have to pick a friend group right off the bat. You can be social with people, and you can rotate your ability to be social with people. So if you see one person and today, you know, you want to kick it with them and you want to hang with them at lunch, okay, cool. But you can also take interest and kick it with somebody else. You're not you don't have to be territorial when it comes to friendships, because you don't want to be in a situation where day 2, you've already claimed this as your friend group, and now 2 weeks later, they're doing things that don't make you feel good as a person. They're doing things that they want you to participate in, and you know that it's not right. How do you get out of the situation? Like, I don't want to engage with this friend group anymore. That's difficult, as opposed to taking your time and truly being observant of how people act, how people treat others, and how people treat themselves, right? When you don't have a level of self-respect, you probably won't have a level of respect for me either. And it's so hard for teenagers to understand that, because it's all about being cool and being with the cool people and being in the cool crowd and doing the cool things. But these are the types of conversations that need to be had in order for good decisions to be made, so that in the long run, they are in positive spaces. And even if they find themselves in spaces that aren't so positive, how can we redirect them without making them feel like they did something wrong? Okay, being organized is going to be important. So like pre-labeling your notebooks, the subjects, the pencils already sharpened, putting the subject on your notebooks or like on the tabs and the binders. Yeah, you want to do all of that. Also, we talked about responsibility. If I make your lunch, if I bought the groceries, the least you could do is make your lunch. If I bought the groceries, maybe you can make your lunch. If I made the lunch, then it's your responsibility to grab it before we walk out the door. Again, you're still going to have to do your chores. Still going to have to tend to the dog, cat, lizard, whatever you guys may have. So I want to not leave you, because we're not done. But I want to just say this. A prepared backpack is wonderful, but a prepared mind is priceless. So making sure that you have these types of conversations, this is how you dig deep, okay? More than just how was your day? What did you do? Do you have homework? These are the types of questions. What type of friends did you hang out with? What did they have on? Okay. And what attracted you to them? What drew you to want to hang out with them? Like, really get up in their business. I know that we be saying that we're not one of their little friends, but sometimes you kind of got to flip the switch. Be one of their little friends so you can get the tea. And you don't have to give advice in that moment, right? You get the tea and you take mental note, and then you circle back around and you ask those critical thinking questions that allow you to determine the answer. Like if you want to give guidance, you have to find a way to formulate it in a question that will allow the door to be open to conversation, right? Because when we automatically start with guidance and this is what you should do, sometimes they just need a listening ear. And sometimes as the listening ear, we know as parents that this is something that I need to address, but we need to use our emotional intelligence and understand, is this something that needs to be addressed right now? Can this come back as a conversation later on, right? And then that's also something that builds their confidence in you, because they know that you listen. There's nothing better than your child saying, oh, you remember that? How did you know that? And it's like, because you told me. You don't remember that? I listen when you speak. That's my job, okay? A prolific parent is an involved parent. And I know as our kids get older, the most cringiest thing you could do is be on the school campus. I don't know why they don't like that, and maybe it's because they know that we're like cool, right? Like some of us are cool parents. And if you're not, talk to me, holla at me. I can help you get there. But effortlessly being a cool parent sometimes does make them feel a type of way, whether it's, I don't want the kids kind of like, you're my mom, I want you to myself, or you're taking the attention off of me and I'm cool too. Whatever it is, we don't have to be socially in their circle, okay? We're adults. We don't need to be mingling with the kids, but there are tons of opportunities for us to show face with the adults on campus, showing up to the back to school night, making sure that you're at registration, introducing yourself to the counselors, the restorative justice people, the culture keepers, whatever titles they may have at your school. Get to know those people outside of just the principal, right? And introduce yourself to the principal as well. But when staff members are able to see this child is represented by this adult, they're less likely to treat that child any type of way. And I hate to say it, but it's true. There are some situations where if a staff person knows this mama ain't finna show up, this mama ain't finna do nothing, this dad is not finna call back, no one's coming to the parent-teacher conferences, they could be disrespectful, they could be rude, they could just project onto that child in a way because they know that no one is going to show up and fight for them. When you show face, it shows staff that this child is not to be played with. This child is well taken care of. This child is poured into and loved on. This child I will be correcting if you let me know what there is that needs to be spoken about. Maybe you're iterating something in the classroom, you want me to reiterate it at home. This is a two-way street, okay? We are not just dropping our kids off at school as a daycare. This is parenting starts at home, and hopefully they are in this space with adults and teachers and staff who are also pouring into them educationally in a way that they should, right? So if there's volunteer opportunities, if there's PTAs, PTOs, what's the difference? Only you know, so school site councils, there's so many opportunities for parents to show up and say, hey, I'm so-and-so's mom and I'm here to help. Is there anything I can do? Especially when your children get into sports and different clubs, you want to be able to just make sure that you're showing up to support them, because again, that's how their confidence becomes boosted to a level. Confident kids are happy kids. I've seen it, okay? What LeVar Burton say? Don't take my word for it. Here's a book, take a look. So checking your emails. I know there's a lot of portals. You got the Grays and Aries, you got the communication and Parent Square. If they're in an activity, you're probably on band. It's a lot. Maybe you can set aside 1 hour each week or 30 minutes every other day just to catch up and make sure that you're not missing anything super important, because the open house will come up very soon. As soon as school starts, you're probably going to have one of those. So, oh yes, prioritizing back to school night, parent-teacher conferences, joining the parenting groups, volunteers, yes. Making connections, yes. Your prolific presence builds their self-worth and integrity, okay? When a child knows that their parent will pull up about them, they don't take the risk of playing around because they know my mama will come up here and clown. Is it just me? Let me know in the comments. Is it just me? Okay, critical thinking conversation starters. This is why I wanted you to bring your notebook out, okay? What are you most excited about? And you can pause and play, write these down. And just one day, I don't know what your drop-off situation is like if you all ride together. Maybe you can have these conversations as you all are in the car together, right? What are you most excited about? Is there anything making you nervous? What type of friend do you hope to be? How do you know if someone will possess what it is? How do you know if someone will possibly be a good friend? And again, we talked about observing before engaging. You do not have to claim a friend group on day one. What are some green flags that someone is a trusted adult? If you forget something, what's your plan? What type of sports teams, clubs, activities are you interested in? What type of reputation do you want to have? And this is a conversation where you can further explain what it is to have a reputation, because it's something that they should definitely be thinking about, especially the ones that are entering into high school, especially the ones who are active on social media. What distractions will arise and how can you handle them? When peer pressure presents itself, how will you address it? And peer pressure is not always a bad thing. You can have friends that are peer pressuring you into join the play with me, join the play. Like, come on, there's going to be a role for everybody. Like, just do it. Come join volleyball with me. But whether it's join the play or hit this J, how are you mentally going to be prepared for responding to that? What are you going to say? What are you going to do to stand your ground? If you know for a fact I'm an athlete and I don't do that, how are you going to respond when it's constantly being brought to you to tap in with? If you know that being in the band is really important to you, how are you going to react when your friends want you to join a sports team that conflicts with your schedule? Maybe you have a job and you're outside of your job. You do have some free time, but not enough to commit to, something that somebody may want you to do, or going someplace that could put you in jeopardy of not making it to work on time. Your friends want to go hang out at the mall, but you got to be over here by 4:30. What happens when the peer pressure is presenting itself, right? So these are important questions to ask parents. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, what goals and core values will you have? Goals, these are going to be two separate. I should have broke this up into two separate. Goals are going to be so important, and they don't have to be for the entire school year, for the entire 7th grade, entire 9th grade. These can be broken down by simply the first marking period, just the first month alone, because sometimes the marking period is 6 weeks and the first month is 4. We know it's 4 months and 4 weeks in a month. Simply getting through the first month, because the transition is going to hit everyone differently. So again, what does it look like to really just get through the first week? What is your goal for the first week? Then we can think about the first month. Then we think about the first marking period. Then we think about the first semester. And then before you know it, we can pre-plan the remainder of the year. Okay? So if you have any questions, drop them below. As we close out, I want to remind parents and caregivers that we have the prolific privilege to guide these tweens and teens as they become who they were created to be. School is about so much more than just grades and projects and assignments. It's where identities begin to form. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we are helping to shape them intentionally. Now, if this conversation encouraged you, motivated you, it resonated with you in any way, I would love for you to subscribe, because every week we'll be deep diving into various ways to raise confident, emotionally healthy, purpose-driven young people. I would also love it if you shared this video with another parent who's preparing for the school year, because each one teach one, right? In addition to that, I would truly love to hear from you in the comments about what routines and conversations your family is going to be implementing as the school year kicks off, what questions you may have, what things you see as possible barriers or things you're working on. All right, until next time, we're not just parenting them for the next grade, we're preparing them for the next season, okay? Don't forget that. Peace.